All right, I'm gonna give this a college try. Who are you gonna start at quarterback this week?
That's one of the things as we move this week, and what we do is we always take the work that we do on Tuesday and the work that we do on Wednesday. Probably those 2 days are the strongest determinants, and who begins at any position. Certainly with quarterback too.
And can you give us an update on Isaiah's health?
He practiced. He did everything yesterday, and which was encouraging.
After looking at the film from the Nevada game, what did you like? What did you not care for?
Parts you liked, there were stretches where we played solid football. It's just in college football, you got to be able to do it for an entirety, and you can't just be most of one half and just partly of another half. You got to play a full game, which we have to do. And the other part obviously is when it comes to production, offensively, there was a just I think a really, really significant contrast. And moving forward, there's got to be some growth in that regard.
Did you see any similarities between Saturday's game and that game at Fresno State a couple years ago when Arion came in as a sophomore, just in terms of how the offense maybe reacted to a different person at that quarterback? Or at that position?
That's kind of an interesting insight. I think I don't know about that. I mean, I can see where you maybe draw some parallels, though, as you bring it up. And it wasn't just that one position. I mean, I thought, the first half, there were a couple things in protection that we didn't handle well, where in the second half we did. And because of it, it's amazing. It's not a lot, but if you have literally one more second to deliver a ball, the way accuracy improves and a route's able to develop just a little bit further. Or I think even receivers, even though you say, hey, there's no way they know what's going on behind them as they run a route, I think they extend a route to a proper depth, and because of it, a route has a chance to develop too.
If Arion Worthman were to drop to number 3 on the depth chart, would he be a guy you might look at a receiver, at a slot back, and doing something else?
He's a quarterback.
Okay. And speaking of quarterbacks who switch positions, Malcolm Perry on the other side, what does he bring?
Just unbelievable athleticism. You look at, goodness, you take the 2 Service Academy games last year, he was absolutely extraordinary. And he was in our game, with catching a few balls, lined up all over the place. Quarterback throwback, and even though they didn't throw it back, still had a huge gain where he ended up tucking the ball and running. And then in their second Service Academy game, I want to say it was like 30 carries for 10. It was like 30 carries for like 210 yards. I don't have those exact numbers, but it was he is a tremendous player, very, very dynamic. The things that he does, even with quarterback draws, even in passing situations to convert some of the longer yardage, and they aren't in long yardage very often, but he's a tremendous football player.
And when they came out last year from the shotgun, is that something, did they do that the rest of the season at all, or was that specifically for Air Force?
No, they've done that. I think pretty much every game. Really, golly, you've probably seen it in most every game they've played, probably ever since, I would say probably going back to about 2013.
Regularly, or was that?
Yeah, well, I think anytime you have some success, which certainly did in our game, you're going to see it more often.
But I'm saying, so between 2013 and the game you played last year, was that a staple of their offense, or was that just every once in a while?
It was part of what it was part of their approach.
And what were those in-game adjustments like last year? And did you feel like that was maybe contributed to the halftime deficit?
Say again?
Didn't they? Okay, so it was my understanding last year when they came out of the gun, that was a new look, that they had worked with New Mexico and kind of learned that for you. Is that an incorrect?
Oh, we'd seen that. You go back, I think you could probably go look. Go to, go to about the first 5 snaps of 2013, or go about the first 15 snaps of 2013, and I bet there are probably, I'm talking off the cuff here, but if an approximate, I'd say probably 6 or 7 of those snaps were in the gun in 2013. Which, you know, you go back 2014, there were times where they were in the gun. Golly, I'm trying to think of other years. There were some other years where that was the case too.
And defensively, if Lakota Wills can't go, who plays that spot, and how does that impact anything defensively?
Well, we'll find out where he is. You know, by the time we get to a game on Saturday, and he played a good bit at that spot. R.J. Jackson's played a bunch at that spot too. Those are the 2 guys that have probably spent. God, I bet those guys have probably had all but about 10 snaps so far this season.
Okay, and then when you look at your quarterbacks, is there a different skill set that maybe, if it's Hammond particularly, do you maybe utilize something different with him?
Well, I mean, it's certainly not a, you know, you wouldn't say you know, this guy is not that guy exactly. You know, it's not where you can say, you know, the cookie's going to be, you know, going to be outlined this, you know, this way for each player. You know, the things that we are going to ask a quarterback to do, where there are some similarities, certainly be able to understand the offense quite well. To be very, very strong in terms of their ball handling. And they're going to have carries, and there are going to be times where the ball has to be delivered, too, down the field.
And understanding the offense, do you feel like Donald is there where you have the whole playbook with him?
I think no doubt. You know, and I think, yeah, no doubt about it. I think all 3 of those guys, you know, you feel comfortable that way.
Coach, before the season starts and everything, when you look at when you have 3 quarterbacks, obviously the nature of your game, a guy may go down and get injured. Do you talk about specific plays you use for specific players?
No, we really don't. Now, I mean, it's probably a little bit what was asked earlier. You know, there are some things where you have a system. Now there's some things that maybe you do these 2 or 3 things maybe a little bit more frequently and a little bit less of, you know, these couple of items here. You know, there may be a game plan thing where you say, well, that's something he could really do. That'd tie in. And, you know, I think that's part of coaching, you know, for what a guy can do. You know, one of the things you can do is think, well, it's only the quarterback. That's not the case at all, you know, in terms of at least the inner workings of all 11 guys and the cohesion and the timing. And, I mean, that's all a part of it. In order to operate as efficiently as we do, I mean, we're not, you know, we're at a place where 11 guys have to be excellent to function, and that's on special teams, that's defensively, and that's absolutely the case offensively too. It takes that kind of unified aggressiveness and precision in order to operate and really execute well.
Coach, just in your years when you played here, all your years coaching, with this rivalry game with Navy, what stands out to you? What makes it special for you?
You know, you try to give a little bit of somewhat of a different response just so you guys can put something out there that's different rather than it's just, you know, anytime you have where the full student bodies of 2 schools, each member of that student body at each one of their respective institutions, they said, I'm willing to go serve. Send me where you need me. Tell me what my role is, and I'm going. I mean, that's the part that I think really fires you up, you know, that you have young men and young women that are willing to make that kind of commitment. And, you know, it doesn't mean it, you know, whether that's a spot you like or don't like, or that's not what it is. You said, no, hey, it's something a little bit stronger and more meaningful than that, than, you know, what your feelings are telling you. You've made you want to fulfill your duty. And, yeah, that gets you fired up.
The Abe kid, they've moved him now to kind of a wide receiver role, but he's scoring a touchdown like every 3rd time he touches it. What do they do with him? What makes, you know, why is he their kind of secret weapon there?
I think really dynamic. And there's been some imagination. I mean, really, you can see, functionally they're very, very good fundamentally, and yet at the same time to have a guy to be able to use him in a few different ways. And I think that kind of happened last year too with number 10 with Malcolm Perry too.
Hey, Bill, are you on?
Yeah, I am, Troy. How you doing?
Hey, good. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good deal. Fire away.
Well, Troy, I guess first and foremost, for those of us who haven't been able to see you on a weekly basis to date, just tell me the main reason why you've used 3 quarterbacks to date. Has it just been performance and you're trying to find the right guy, or just kind of tell me what has led you to this type of situation?
Bill, probably as much as anything has been health. We played our first game, and it wasn't significant, but when it came to a little bit of a rib and a knee in the first game with Arion, who started that game, we went into the next week of practice, and Isaiah was clearly able to function at a much higher level in that following week. And so I think that's been a factor. I mean, no question it's been a factor. And yet it's, that's anybody's preference, I think, would be to have one person take every single snap. Now, you don't prepare that way. Certainly you don't train that way during the month of August. And we want to make sure we got significant work for at least 2 deep, and in some places we feel like we can do it with 3 deep. And that's one spot where I think we can.
Coach Niumatalolo's assessment was that all 3 of them are similar enough that you can run the full offense. Is that how you and Mike feel about it? That, whichever one's in there, you're not limited in any respect?
I think so. Yes, sir.
One of the things that I thought was interesting is that you and Kenny have now coached against each other 10 times. This will be the 11th. I don't know if you've coached against anyone else that many times in your career. I don't know if there's been someone within the Mountain West Conference that's been there that entire time that you've been at Air Force, but is that kind of neat to think about? And obviously after 10 meetings, you all probably have gotten to know each other pretty well. Kenny says that you guys kind of talk pregame a little bit about just various things, kind of about what you deal with the service academies. And I mean, I kind of imagine you would have some grudging respect there, right?
Oh yeah, I mean nothing but the utmost respect for the way he operates, and certainly for their program. And you play against most of the other schools that you play against whenever you're or schools that you play every single year. You're in a league, so you have a couple of times a year where there are meetings, whether it's in the summer or in the spring. So you see those guys a little more frequently, whether you're eating a sandwich together or something like that, where here it's pretty much solely for a few minutes in pregame.
And then, obviously he thinks you all are similar in terms of how your seasons have progressed, that you've shown flashes and obviously have the ability to get it done, but there's been inconsistencies and things that you've got to clean up. I mean, do you feel like you're in a similar boat with Navy as far as how you performed to date, and that you're still looking for your complete effort? I
think that's fair, very fair assessment. Just the growth and the improvement that we have to make and can make. And, I mean, that's yet. I'll say this. I think when you get deeper into October and you get into November, each team's different. Every squad that we've had is a group that charts their own unique course. And you find out a little bit more in terms of what that azimuth really is as you get into October and November.
And then lastly, I mean, I know that there is some thought that, or predictions that the weather could be rough, high winds. I don't know. Supposedly there's going to be some sort of system moving in. Any thoughts? Does that favor Air Force and that you're more accustomed? Although I don't think you've had that kind of weather to date, but perhaps you are more accustomed over the years of having your players playing in adverse conditions.
I got to tell you, Bill, I don't watch a ton of evening reports. You just don't have time to. I don't check the I do try to maybe once in a while to get a forecast here or there for things that you can encounter. I think that's part of your preparation that you have to. I don't know if it is. I think probably if you looked at the amount of precipitation over the last 45 days, golly, I'll tell you this, in Colorado Springs, I don't know if we've had maybe 2 days where it's rained in the last 45. I could be off there, but it's been pretty dry here. I don't know if that is necessarily.
Right.
And you know what? The other thing is, I think in these games, I don't know how much the climate matters. And I think that's what's kind of neat about them is the participants in these games have a way of you're at an academy, you probably have a pretty good heater on the inside. You make your own juice and make your own. You don't, your thermostat, you got a little more control just because of your heart and your willpower as a service academy football player.